And what started out as peaceful protests for George Floyd in Tucson Friday and Saturday night at times turned into chaotic scenes of destruction. News 4 Tucson's Eric Fink spoke with the Tucson police chief to get his reaction and how he and his department plans to move forward. Eric.
Angelique, Chief Magnus says he is saddened that at some point, both Friday and Saturday nights, those peaceful protests turned violent and destructive. He says he's proud of how his officers showed restraint. And now, he says, is the time for open and an honest dialogue between members of the police department and members of our community. Back-to-back nights of chaos and unrest, along with some peaceful protesting.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
Tucson police making a total of 17 arrests between Friday night and Sunday night. Businesses around downtown suffering several $100,000 in damage, from broken glass and windows to homes and businesses vandalized to fires set. Tucson Police Chief Chief Magnus is proud of the restraint his department showed. Magnus says he's troubled by the actions of some we saw over the weekend, whether or not they call Tucson home.
I don't think their goal was to promote kind of a social justice agenda, but rather to really take advantage of a situation, almost to hijack it, to be violent, to be destructive, to create problems.
I asked the chief how he feels about these large demonstrations in the era of COVID-19.
We had no choice but to be very close to each other. Officers were not always in a position where they could wear masks. It was a little ironic to see that there were protesters who had masks on, yet there were holes cut out for their eyes, nose, and mouth, the way that, the disease is actually transmitted.
Magnus says the city has a history of peaceful protests. He hopes Monday night's vigil is the start of dialogue and healing. He says the overwhelming majority of the officers in his department strive to treat everyone with care and respect. But he knows there has to be open dialogue locally and across the country about policing and communities of color.
There have to be real conversations about both history and what moving forward looks like. There's no department in this country that does not have some officers that we would be disappointed in based on actions, but I think here in Tucson, that's a tiny percentage.
And back out here live, we just got some updated numbers a few moments ago. TPD now telling us they made 19 arrests over the weekend, and there is a vigil coming up in a little less than an hour at 6 o'clock to honor the lives lost, not only George Floyd's, but others lost to police brutality. My colleague Mark Mangura is going to have more on that starting at 6 o'clock. It goes until 7:45, just 15 minutes before the start of night 2 of the statewide curfew. We've got you covered live this evening from the Tucson Police Department headquarters. I'm Eric Fink, News 4 Tucson.